NBA playoffs time. Round one. Play-in's done. Warriors are done. Yeah, Hawks are done. Sorry, man, your Hawks are done, right? Your Hawks. How many more seasons are you going to put money on the Hawks, man? I swear every season you like to rate them really highly, and they always get cooked, extremely early, right? Yeah, look, I don't know, man. I think the Suns are cooked too, but hey, look, I don't know
Wow,
which series
jeez. Okay.
which series
All
do you
right.
want to start with, my friend?
Well, I think first off, any year is a good year for the Hawks to take off. So maybe next season they'll get it together.
Maybe next season, maybe
Um,
top six for them
no, I
next
was
season.
actually thinking before we jump in, it's pretty, like seedings are important, and I think this season it's really interesting. After the play-in, the 7-8 didn't change. 9 and 10 both failed to take one of those spots, and so far, I found it since 2013. This is the first time it's happened, but every team who was the top seed or the home team won their first game. So right now, everything's actually playing out according to the order that the regular season put them in. So theoretically, there's nothing interesting to talk about, especially after game one. But would be a
Well,
terrible reactive
remember the
podcast.
whole NBA is a script anyway, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah.
just following the
That's
head
how it works.
office, and that's what's going on right now. So,
That's how it works. I think what we should do, maybe pick reaction to the games as they were played.
sure.
That would
What's
be
the
the
first
way
game
that
that was
I would
played?
do it.
Refresh my memory.
So yesterday, we had 4 games. So we had Magic Cavaliers, Suns Timberwolves, 76ers Knicks, and we had Lakers Nuggets. I couldn't tell you what time they were. I don't know if we're going to have a dedicated fan be like, oh, I can't watch this because you actually said that game was first, but it was second. But let's start with Magic and Cavs because my Google that I've done has them as the first game, and
Yep.
Magic fell 83-97. It's a
Yeah.
weird way of framing it, but that's okay. And obviously the youth was on full effect there. So, pretty much it was just Paolo chucking up a lot of shots, not many other opportunities
Let,
there, and
let,
Donovan Mitchell coming alive finally. So, what do
let's
you want to say about your Magic
let's
on this
start
one?
with I sent you a message. I think something like we decided somehow 90s basketball was the way to go, right? Maybe if we score 82 points, we'll keep the team in the 70-point range. Is that the game plan here in Magic Kingdom? I don't know, man. It's look, clearly we're gonna get more. We need more buckets. Um, Besides Paolo and obviously France, who else? Who else is a reliable scoring threat? And I guess this is the part that I've griped about all season, right? That our poor picks in regards to our draft assets throughout the years have not necessarily yielded a reliable third asset at this point. Don't get me wrong, maybe someone will develop into that. Maybe Shugs will take another giant leap into year three and, maybe in a MIP conversation, right? I don't know, okay, but right now it's not there. And this is why I didn't pick him for the first round. Mitchell going off for 30. This is going to that script that, I'm expecting. Look, hey, if we grab a game, I'm happy. But I think I did say last week that I'm almost feeling that it wouldn't be far fetched if we got swept.
Did I zag on this one? Did I pick the Magic just because I'm an idiot? Is that what happened? Or I
Yeah,
can't.
I feel like this is the part where that stat guy tells us what we actually did last recording because clearly we
Yeah,
we're like, but I
no,
think you did. I
I
think
didn't.
you
I should
did.
have.
I
I
think
should have
you
wrote them
did.
down.
Yeah,
But
I think you felt highly about the Magic, but I don't know how game one would have given you any more confidence to back that statement up right now.
I mean, I'd love to switch to a 4-1 sweep basically of the Magic, but like you gotta stick to your guns. I picked my bracket. I've lost already. Um, I think also like I'm going to preface this. It is game one, so a lot can happen in game 2 to 5, 6, wherever far it goes. But the Magic definitely looking like the youngest team. The rookies in the playoffs, and I think it's going to be a quick one for them. We go over to Suns and Timberwolves, where the score 95-120, not easy as a Phoenix Suns fan here. Anthony Edwards really coming alive in front of us, kind of continuing on his strong playoff series against Denver last season, and now he's actually potentially going to bury the Suns, which would be a really big thing for him in his young career, and probably taking that Ja Morant ascension that we saw a couple of years back with him, where he just becomes a superstar and knocks off a veteran team. But I don't want to believe that. I don't want that to be the reality because Phoenix has a nice path here and they've got to keep going. But you sent me the text, and I think I was busy doing some household errands at the time, and I didn't know how to articulate it. But I think even I myself am questioning how much more can I stand by Devin Booker? Talented player, really, really good,
Far
but
from
like I'm
sixteen.
kind of getting sick of this. I'm getting sick of Booker having these games. And, last season in the playoffs, he was just on a tear for like 6 or 7 straight games. And then he had that one that fell off. And I guess you could justify it and say, oh, well, it's a hot streak. It's bound to end at some point. But maybe this is the difference between him and the all-time greats, right? We often see the Kobe comparisons,
Mm.
but Kobe did this when he was young, but Kobe started out when he was 19 and he was already playing meaningful games. And maybe Booker will get there in 3, 4 more years after more and more playoff experience. He's going to be a bit more of a consistent killer. But, KD didn't look great. But should KD be having to look great? I think that's been the theme of the whole season. KD was the best Suns player when Booker should have been the best Suns player. And Beal, I don't know. I don't feel great. I don't feel great because I thought Minnesota would have been easy pickings,
Easy
but maybe
pickings.
it would have been better if we went up against OKC. No, what do you want to add? I don't
Oh
want to
man,
keep talking
look,
about.
look, I feel that Sun's bias has clearly risen to the surface right now to make some sort of suggestion that the T-Wolves this season and the season that they've had so far, the depth that they have, especially in the big man department, was going to make them easy pickings. And they're all healthy. All their core players are healthy right now. And T-Wolves are going to be a dangerous team for anyone they sort of come up with in these next few rounds. I think that's the reality. I think with the Suns, is it too far fetched to maybe even suggest that Booker should be a third option on your team? I don't know, should Beal have superseded him at some point in this sort of conversation that maybe Book is just not cut out to be Kobe. And look, credit to him, like he keeps shooting clearly, right? He flies away in all these big games, and he just clunks his way away to like 20% from the field, 25% from the field, and often that's in a loss. I think that's the catch between the catch between him and those greats. Yeah, you mentioned Kobe, is that Kobe has had clunkers. Yeah, they all have. Yeah, it's a reality of basketball, right? As a basketball player, you sometimes just don't. It's not your day. Yeah, you turn up. It's not your day. You have a terrible showing, but then you forget about them because you have those great days. You have those defining moments, and you have more of them than these clunkers. Yeah, and that's the catcher, and that's the issue with Booker is that right now all you remember is the clunkers. There is no real defining games besides some of those games where he goes hot, gets 50, 60 sort of games that you can't really think back and go, hey, Book won this series because he lit it up. Yeah, or even sort of like a pivotal one game where you go, oh, geez, game seven, Book showed up. Like, yeah, you could maybe go back even to that Phoenix Mavs game where obviously lots of hype and you guys just fell apart. Yeah, that could have been a pivotal game where in another universe, right, that Book took over and wow, stamped his authority that this guy's a killer. Game seven, like he's just going to show up and just put the other team to bed, right? But he doesn't have that. And you're saying like it could happen, it could, but man, you guys are Suns fans. You just gotta have to sit there and just watch him, keep shooting away, all right? And yeah, look, good news for you. That's like maybe 3 or 4 games more for this season.
Yeah, no,
Tops.
okay, all right. I think I like what you said about the series against the Mavs because I think we saw that game seven and Luka single-handedly outscores the
Mm,
Suns in the first half of a game seven on the road, and that became like Luka had already got a bit of a storied history, but that was just another Luka moment.
mm.
And I guess the thing is, you look at the tenure of Luka and you look at the tenure of Booker, and as much as we want to pretend that they're on the same tier, they're not even close. And I guess we don't need to bring up that we could have had him as a potential player on the Suns. But let's move on.
I want to actually touch on that one. I was thinking about it this week. Yeah, I've been waiting today to actually, maybe because we're here now. Let me touch upon it. Okay, I was thinking that if you guys had taken Luca, yeah, that's a big if. Okay, like look, whatever. Okay, like so the Kings could have taken Luca too, right? That's the reality, right? But if you guys had taken Luca and paired him with Book,
Booker,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, all right, would you guys potentially have the greatest two like duo that a team has drafted since maybe the Bulls drafted Jordan and Pippen? Because we're talking
Well,
about Luca in the stratosphere as one of the all-time greats when his career is potentially said and done. And he's on a
hmm.
trajectory that's there. So Book would be Pippen. Booker would be Pippen, okay? But Luka has not had the teammates around him at this point to succeed. Yeah, Kyrie now's come on board. Clearly, Porzingis was not that teammate, and he was sort of he was that one-man show which many all-star, superstar players have to deal with within their career at points until they get paired up with that right partner to win games and to win championships with. But, okay, if you guys had picked him, all right, and paired him with Booker, do you not potentially have that greatest all-time punch there, 1-2, that would have potentially won you guys multiple rings, just like the Bulls got on the map 6 championships later, Jordan, Pippen, and everything that happened there in the 90s, man. Hey, look, that's a huge what if. That's a huge what if. Yeah, and this is not this was not like a knock here. We've already talked about it. It's not like, man, you guys suck. You picked Aiden, right? And then now he's gone. But it's just, imagine just that universe. Just take that moment and go, well, what if? You guys, I don't know. It doesn't seem too far-fetched.
I think I'd say Clay and Steph come to mind as a team that's drafted their 2 star players as a more recent example.
They needed Draymond too.
They did need Draymond as well. I think if you had Booker and Luka, they might have had a different outcome in the playoffs. I don't know if they even get to the finals. I think CP was a really big reason as to why they got to the finals in the first place. But you're seeing it right now. Booker can play alongside KD, so another player who has the ball a lot. And you're seeing Luka play alongside Kyrie and having success. So, yeah, I don't think it's unfathomable now in 2024 to say they could have worked well together. I guess it's a really good hindsight thing of sometimes taking the fit isn't like you do take the potential over the fit. And obviously, when you're in the first position, like you wonder in hindsight, let's say Phoenix was the 2nd pick in the draft or the 3rd pick in the draft. Do they end up taking Luka? But it was that classic scenario of they're first, they need a big, and Aiton's a Phoenix native anyway. Like, I think they got caught in a narrative there and they felt too much pressure. And ultimately, GMs are trying to keep their jobs. So they make safe choices, not, swing for the fences.
But see, here's the thing, that draft, Luka was never rated as the best prospect. See,
no, he wasn't.
That was the challenge of picking Luka and how he slid to 5th and then got traded. It was...
I think that frustrates me because in real time, you were talking about a kid who won the EuroLeague MVP at like 16 or 17. I just don't know how we got that so wrong. I understand Europeans come over and they're not that good, etc. But Luka was very reminiscent of how we treated Wemby last year, right? In terms of like, we're going to make this a fixation. Like, now there's something about this kid. And I actually think Luka maybe paved the way for Wemby because the amount of coverage that Wemby's gotten, you look at our international prospects historically, no one knew who Nikola Jokic was. A couple of people pretended to know who Giannis was. Then, there was a bit of talk about Luka on the mainstream radio. And then Wemby, we did not want to miss it. And I think we're starting to realize in real time, there are good international players out there. And sometimes we over-convolute just how good they are. And Luka was that good because teenagers don't win the EuroLeague MVP. I'm sorry. A couple of MVPs have come over and they're just role players in the NBA. But we're talking about a 16-year-old kid. Like, I just don't know how the scouts got it so wrong. I think it was obvious from the get-go.
I think a lot of it had to do with how his body was. And that was Jokic's knock for, even to today, right? He just doesn't look like that all-star, superstar athlete in that sense. His game was never, playing above the rim in that sense and being super athletic or the fastest player on the floor. And I think that's where it's really hard. I think, again, if you go back to history and put all these names into different categories and all these players that had potential and were really good at whatever level they were playing at, college or high school or internationally, in that sort of style, but did it or could it translate into the NBA? Many, I guess, did not. And I guess that's the part where, it's you never know, right? Drafting players is a tricky one. But what's our next series?
Well, I think this one was a little bit more interesting than maybe it should have been, but I also think we got a lot of answers in the matchup, and that was the Knicks versus the 76ers. So the Knicks end up scraping out with Josh Hart getting a hot late, and they win by 7, so 111 to 104. And I think the main way that you could sum up that game and series, when Joel Embiid did the self alley-oop off the backboard, and then he lands and basically injures his knee or re-injures his knee or aggravates, depending on what the framing we're using here, and then goes to the locker room and then comes back. I think that says all that we need to know about the 76ers' chances of making this a legitimate series. He needs to be healthy, which he's already not, and we kind of know that. And he is their best chance to be a competitor, which unfortunately is not what you want when he can't even get through a half in a playoff series. When you look at, I've like read some stuff, I've watched some stuff, etc. That man, I think, did I make this proclamation that he's turning into Yao Ming? Who did I call Yao Ming? Was it him?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm actually going to like hot take the crap out of it. And if we had an editor, we would clip this right now. I'm confident. I don't think he's getting more than, I think this current contract could legitimately be his last. I don't think his knee's going to last, because every single aggravation like this, it's more and more cartilage, more and more meniscus that's like tearing away, getting injured, etc. And he's not getting younger, and he's not getting lighter, and he's not going to be able to change the way that he plays. This is it. The closest that the 76ers came was that stretch for 3 months. Tyrese Maxey's good. He's not that good. The Knicks are going to scrape by through the series because they're going to be scrappier. But the 70s, like it's legitimately over for Joel Embiid.
Just for our zero viewers that are tuning in here, Nick has a lovely history with knees and knee injuries, and a huge skepticism that anyone ever recovers from, including his proclamation that about a year ago that Kawhi Leonard was done, and he was also retiring too. And
well, look at that. That hasn't aged poorly. That hasn't aged poorly. He's not playing currently. He's not playing currently. Why isn't he playing? These are the games that he should be playing, not the regular season.
So
I'm sorry, man.
So I don't know. I'm not really going to jump on the Joel Embiid is the Yao Ming of the 2020s yet. All right, but I think there's probably some level of ceiling that has now been lowered. Yeah, after what happened this season with him again, I think managing his workload is going to be so, important for the Sixers. Yeah, maybe the goal is to just get him to 65 games. Yeah, because now there has been some sort of minimum set now by the league that, look, let's not try and get to 82 games. Let's play 65 games. Let's take 17 games of rest in between every 5 games or whatever it is that you sort of, balance out. And then, like you said, just like Kawhi's not playing right this moment, but he did have a pretty good bounce back season until, here we go, games 83, 4, and 5, etc. That Embiid. Embiid Curly needs some sort of real, TLC there to get through a season. But look, again, if we're talking about injuries here, AD is probably a really interesting one. Yeah, who would have thought AD was going to get such a great season? Yeah, no one would have picked that. Yeah, except me, and I drafted him right at fantasy, but that's another story. But the thing is that no one would have picked it. That you would have gone 80. Let's shoot for 65 games. Yeah, but he sort of surpassed that expectation, and Curly, he's had a really good healthy season.
I think the difference between AD and Joel Embiid continually hurts his knees now. This is the difference with an injury-prone player. AD somehow just seems to be unlucky and
just
really
hurts everything else. Yeah, he balances it out. Is that what you're saying? I get
it. He's almost like not built to play sport based off how he gets injured and how often he gets injured. He's just unlucky in that sense. But Joel Embiid's now legitimately like ruining his left knee. I just think I don't want to look. I'm not trying to like cast any shadow over it. It's just like he's probably come back too early, right? I understand the reason why he had to come back early, because if he can make this work, then he's really good. I don't think people understand the drugs / medications that NBA players have access to. Like, he can get an injection. That's what he went back to do. Like, if you're not aware, he's not getting an ice pack and he's not getting restrapped. He's getting an injection in there to take the swelling out, or pump it full of cortisone so that he can keep going. Like, that's what that is, right? And that's why he gets paid mega millions, right? So when we talk about NBA players getting too much money, he's actually destroying his body. And so the rest of his life will be impacted by this. Like, I'm
this was the highway we were supposed to take today, called the NBA playoffs, and now we've veered up into
no. We're good. I'm back on.
Destroying career view. I love it. I like it. So
keep it to 10 seconds. No, keep it to 10 seconds. Keep it to 10 seconds. Are you confident the Knicks are going through here? Because I'm pretty confident the Knicks are going through here.
I'm not sure if you recall, I have picked the Knicks to win the 2024 NBA championship, and Jalen Brunson is going to take them all the way. Clearly, firstly, through the Sixers and every other opponent they face. So 15 more wins, 15 more wins. Let's go, Knicks.
All right. And then the final game for yesterday was the Lakers and Nuggets, a rematch of the Western Conference Finals. And, the Lakers have been waiting for them all season and blah, blah, blah. They lost again. And it's a classic scenario with Denver. I think a lot of teams stick with Denver. They're a bit competitive, and then there's a little bit of a run, and they make a catch up. Denver always wins in the end. That is legitimately how it feels facing them. Like, I've watched some games live against them throughout the season, and it's close, and then they just execute so well in those last 5-10 minutes
and they have
that
the
you
best
just
player
don't
in the
win.
world.
Exactly. Right. And Jamal Murray looked pretty good. The role players did what they were supposed to do. And I really feel like the Lakers, like, I don't want to be dramatic, but I'm feeling very dramatic after the Knicks series. But I just think LeBron knew it. You saw all this narrative about, he just disappeared in the fourth quarter. And it's like, I just think he knew that there was no point of exerting himself in that game because he was done. Like, LeBron was it 2017 Cavs energy when he went up against, he had that 50-point triple-double and he still lost. And he was like, I'm done. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I think that's how he's playing right now. Like, what are they going to do? How are they going to win this series? How are they going to win a game?
I watched a little short on, I don't know what it was, First Take or something. Stephen A. was talking about if LeBron wins the NBA championship this year, how he would have to rethink the narrative here if he is the greatest of all time, right? But it's just you would be willing, talking about betting, right? You'd be winning millions of dollars right now potentially. Yeah, your returns would be significantly great if you were to go and put your house on the Lakers, because it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, they finished seventh for a reason. Seeded teams rarely, if ever, win at all. Okay, and they're facing the defending champions. And like you said, man, the Nuggets are a tough one. Yeah, it's just, look, if they can pinch a game or two, they should just pat themselves on the back and that's it. Let's go have a holiday.
Well, that'll be the Lakers parade, right? They finally break that streak of like 9 straight games lost.
And that's inevitable at some point, right?
Yeah, but even then, I mean, you look at the way that they're playing, I'm pretty confident they'll smash through it. So let's move over to another series that doesn't feel like it's going to have much happening to it, and that's the Heat and the Celtics. If you were here a year ago, this is like this is clickbait. This is the trending topic.
Could be juicy.
But with Jimmy Butler out with an MCL sprain and he's not playing this entire series, and the Celtics obviously being a bit retooled and probably a bit remotivated, right? This is the demon that they can conquer in the first round and kind of ride that momentum. And they also shot the lights out, right? Everybody was just throwing up threes in that game. Maybe not sustainable, but I can't see how the Heat get more than a game off the Celtics in this series. But you tell me what you're thinking.
Well, who's gonna help them win 4, let alone a game? Really, this is now turned into a sweep situation, right? It's funny you mentioned Herro. I actually really like Tyler Herro. Yeah. I read a few articles on him when he came into the league and stuff like that. He's like, he's got a nice little story to go along with his how he got here, sort of thing. But he's almost like Devin Booker light. I think sometimes if you look at his stats in key games, he hasn't necessarily shown up. And then he's obviously had a handful of injuries in his young career so far that have sort of taken him out of key moments throughout the season for the Heat. And look, again, his narrative could change. He's fairly young still, but I'm not really putting much confidence that Tyler Herro is going to be able to be able to carry the Heat over the Celtics in this season. They won 60 games, man. It's just not going to happen. It's like, can we avoid a sweep? Yeah, that's it, right?
I knew Booker Light was coming because it was the same thing that I was thinking in my head. I think, Tyler Herro is riding a lot of success early. Like, I think in the rookie year, that's when they went to the finals and he was, pretty good and a little bit competitive. And, they're riding that energy, or at least that's how he's been riding his entire career. But yeah, look, I think Coach Spo is going to win them the one game. That's actually who I think is going to win. And I think they're going to get the right matchup on the right shooting night and they're just going to exploit it. And they're not going to pull out a big one. I reckon they're just going to get a close one. And Celtics will win it in 5. I really feel like that's how it's going to go. And then we move on. I'm going to jump out of order on my own sheet just because I feel like this is more interesting to talk about. It's Dame time, buddy. It's Dame time.
I actually have some interesting take on this. I'd like to see what you think. Okay. Obviously you're obviously alluding to Dame Lillard, game one, Bucks beating the Pacers, 35 points from Dame Lillard, and a bit of a bit of theater to it. Dame time is now in Milwaukee, and you are mentioning his name, but are we ignoring? He scored 35 points in the first half. That's great.
Yep.
And he scored 0 in the second half.
That's efficient.
Yeah.
Get his work done. Get his work done before halftime. I like it.
But here's the thing: it's not like he didn't play in the second. That's another story. Okay, it's not like he went home. He played the second. He did not score. He, I think, shot top of my head 11 from 24. So again, he did not crack that 50% mark. And most importantly, he plus minus was actually, I think, -1 or minus something along those lines. Now, if you look at the box score, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, they were plus 20 something in this game, which they won by double digits against the Pacers. I find it a little bit biased, yeah? Let's use that word, right? Yeah, that everyone is focusing so much attention that Dame Lillard had such a great game when it was not solely Dame Lillard. Yeah, he had a great first half. Absolutely. No one's going to dispute that at all. But it's a 48-minute game here. And at the end of the day, I really like plus minus because if I was a pro coach, yeah, let's be clear, as a junior coach, we don't have any of these statistics. But if I was a pro coach, it feels like you would be looking at plus minus, not raw stats. Because what you're looking for is who is being effective to give you a positive plus minus in any game. It doesn't matter whether they've scored 0 points or they've scored 35 points in the half. Who is helping you build a lead? Because that's the goal, is to build a lead and to win a game that you have more plus, or plus one at least more than the other team. So, man, look, great, the Bucks got a game here. Tyrese Halliburton didn't show up, or Pascal Siakam, lucky they traded for him. They've got no other option on this team right now, really, from a scoring punch point of view. But, man, look, I ain't feeling nothing confident about Dame time, taking Bucks any further right now.
I'd actually say what you're referencing with, Middleton, Portis, even Lopez, to a degree, playing their roles and being efficient within them. I'd actually say, like, Dame time, I'm kind of joking about Dame time. I think everything you raised is legitimate. There is a weird decline that's happening with him, and he might maintain that, but it's a very weird stat line to go 35 and then 0. But I actually don't think it's about Dame beating the Pacers. I actually think it's about Tyrese beating the Pacers, because Tyrese, as someone who had him in the fantasy league, we have watched the stats be up and down ever since the in-season tournament / hamstring injury. I think some people are trying to make the in-season tournament at the moment. I actually think the decline really, truly happened once he had the hamstring injury. He's going to probably come out and have a really big one, and he's going to need to, because that's the difference between the teams. Right now, when you look at this, no one on the Bucks besides Dame Lillard really, really went off. And for Dame Lillard to get 35 points on 24 shots, not great. But it's the Pacers. It's that you can't rely on Pascal Siakam to give you 36 points and play almost 40 minutes. It's Tyrese Halliburton who needs to bump that up. If Tyrese Halliburton gets 13 more points, which is what he's supposed to do as his average, right, at 22, that's a 2-point game, and we're having a different conversation. So it's really Tyrese Halliburton that's got to rise to the occasion. And this is, we're talking about him. He's on a difference here. He's like, maybe this is the trap of Luka. Because Luka was so good so early, and we kind of just knew, like, he just does what he wants. Booker, Tyrese Halliburton, even Jason Tatum, right? These are players who are young, successful, leads their teams, but they just don't do it cleanly, and they have a lot of bumps along the way. And this is Tyrese Halliburton's first playoff bump. And I think it's going to be a really ugly series for him, and I look forward to next season with him. But I don't see the Pacers getting past Bucks here.
Yeah, I'm not sure who I ended up picking. Did I pick an upset perhaps here for the Pacers?
You picked the upset.
Yeah, I think I did pick the upset. But look, Halliburton has to show up. His box score looked extremely passive. I haven't seen any of the game footage. Yeah, look, I don't know. They're going to have to try and pinch game 2 and try and even it up to go back to Indiana. I think you don't want to be 0-2.
Which, when you look at this, like, all the betting odds say Indiana has the chance to do so. You saw the rivalry in season, but they don't have Giannis. like if you're going to beat a team right now, if you're going to get your first playoff series win with this core where you're trying to convince Pascal Siakam to re-sign in the offseason, you're trying to get some young legs, get some experience here. This is the series that you win. So let's see what the Pacers do in game 2. It is only game 1. A lot can change. Let's jump over to Mavericks and Clippers, where I feel like this is another scenario where a team beat themselves because Dallas just couldn't shoot. Like often I look at a box score, or I'll look at team stats, and I'll kind of ask myself, like, could I have played that game? And I think I could stand in the corner and miss threes. I think I could do that for the Dallas Mavericks. I reckon I could hit 1 out of 10 if you let me go for it. I'll hit 1 out of 10 easy. But not a great game. Luka volume 4 out of 12, 11 out of 26 shooting, 4 out of 12 from 3. But it's the role players, right? It's that Luka's not going to give the ball up a lot, but when he does, he needs you to hit it. Dante Exum, nothing from 3. Maxi Kleber, 0 from 3. Derek Jones, 0-1 from 3. PJ Washington, 2 or 7 from 3. They just didn't have it going from 3. But it's also that weird thing. I feel like Westbrook almost guarantees you 1 playoff win, having him on your roster, and that might have already been the game for him. Because he just comes in with like high energy and just really pushes it. But then also Harden's probably not going to play that well either. The Clippers are so up and down, right? We kind of know they're not going to have Kawhi in this. I still feel confident that the Mavericks are going to get it done in the end. But, I think the Clippers did what they're supposed to.
You're right. The role players for the Mavs did not show up this game. I think it was 60 plus combined points between Kyrie and Luka. Not a great balance there from an offensive perspective. But you know what? It's probably not shock horror that they lost the first game. It's not shock horror that J Kidd then calls them out for the lack of focus and effort and so on and so forth. Because I think what I talked about last week was Luka and the Mavs have this habit of just letting teams just hang around and they make it like a close series. It wouldn't be shocking if this series just bounces 1 win here, 1 win there, so on and so forth. And then when it gets to a pivotal game 6, maybe the Mavs will grab that, and then, then now it's a game 7, and then, they just got to close that one out. So, look, I don't think, I don't know, this is that stat guy we need again. Has Luka and the Mavs ever won a series 4-0? That's my question. I can't think of one that really stands out.
No, not yet. Not yet. He hasn't swept. I don't believe he's swept anybody just yet. He failed to get past the Clippers, I think, twice in a row, and then. Did Dallas? I know Dallas beat Golden. I know they beat the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm pretty sure to get to Golden State to then lose. Or was it Phoenix? I don't know. But yeah, look, they've never had a clean run yet, and I think Luka's still searching for that. And you look at the usage there, and eventually Luka is going to have to figure out he can't take 26 shots and have the ball for 40% of the game time when the Mavs are there. But it is just game 1. I think people forget PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford were on the Charlotte Hornets. Spoiler alert, Charlotte hasn't been very good for like ever. So those 2 players have actually never played any substantially important minutes or tense minutes or even playoff minutes. So I think there's a bit of experience that needs to be there. And then you look at the rest of the roster too, and it's like, well, Derek Jones Jr., he's bounced around the league. What has he really done? Derek Lively is a rookie, in case people forget that. Dante Exum was out of the league and is now back. Josh Green, pretty young as well. This is probably where you would start to highlight if PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford can't meet the expectation that we kind of have for them now after that end of season stretch, then the Mavericks are in legitimate trouble. But the Clippers also, are they going to get this good of a game from Harden again? I don't think so. But, who knows? Let's go on to the only interesting game of the first set, and that was OKC versus Pelicans, the 2v7 matchup coming down to the wire. It was the only one that I watched highlights for deliberately because I just wanted to see how that game ended. And it was your boy, previously my boy, Chet Holmgren, really playing some strong defense right at the end there. But OKC looked young. I don't know if you've watched the highlights. OKC looked young. The Pelicans were relying heavily on CJ McCollum to kind of get them there, and that's not a great strategy either. But I could see this going 6 games. I think OKC has enough talent to pull it out, but I don't think they're going to handle business as quick as they should because that youth factor that everyone was concerned about ahead of time is going to etch into this. There were a couple of weird turnovers. There was a 5-minute stretch where they couldn't score. OKC hopefully learn on the fly because if they don't, they're not going to go as far as they could this season.
I feel like I feel like firstly, it's not that they look young; they are young. Yeah, that's the first statistical point of view of the OKC roster construction. That they are a very, very young team, and the fact that they got over the line, that's all you need to do. Yeah, that's the reality, I think, in any game and in a playoff series where you get first to four here, it is that you just need to get over the line. So whether you do it ugly, whether you do it beautifully, you just got to get over the line. And it's probably not a bad thing that they are likely, you're saying 6 games here, that they're likely going to drop a game or two here. Because as far as I'm concerned, now maybe you tell me as a coach, you used to coach back in the day, right? I think it's beneficial to lose games. Yeah, because you learn in those situations how to deal with that adversity of losing games. And you also deal with the situation of playing from behind or ultimately ending up behind at the end of end of time and in the scoreboard you've lost. If you are never faced in those situations, like placed in those situations, face that sort of adversity, and it comes along at the wrong time, you don't know what to do. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you've not been in that position before. So going a series for the OKC Thunder being such a young team, let's say they do go 6 games like you're predicting here, is probably actually a real bonus for them. Yeah, going 4 and
Yeah.
0 would be actually probably, not a helpful learning curve for them against the Pelicans. And I think that's something that, you might disagree with me, winning 4-0 is great, don't get me wrong. But I think yeah, man, it's yeah, I think the Thunder do have more talent than clearly the Pelicans have scraped in, and without Zion now as well, that's a bugger. But yeah, look
Well,
clearly.
it would be the only thing that would tip this series from OKC being a sure thing would be Zion, because I think Zion poses a really interesting matchup problem for OKC because I think he could outstrength Chet Holmgren quite easily. And who else do they have? Like Jonas Valanciunas was a really important part of today's game, and that's not a sentence you often utter in a playoff series. But
He did have a
that's
strong stat line, I believe, from what I saw. That's why they've got, I think, Bismack Biyombo, right?
oh
He's our Zion guy, insurance. If Zion does dress for this series, let's see him play for 18 minutes. Look, you're right. Zion coming back probably does, give the Pelicans a fighting chance. But I think without Zion, and I don't know how long he's supposed to be out for. Is it day to day? I think right now that
it's
it's
a hamstring. It's another hamstring strain for him, and I think the hardest part with them is that you can't rush them back because then it's not worth the long thing. And I think they got a really good season out of Zion, and maybe they look at this and say, "That's okay. We know what we've got. We retool and we come from there." Because it's very similar to how you approach fantasy, I guess. Is that you don't have anything to lose. Like the Pelicans don't have to win this series. No one expects them to, so they're playing with house money. But OKC needs to. If they get upset as a 2 seed, we can justify it and say, similar to the Kings last season, they're young. They had a really good regular season, couldn't play it through. But I think for the Thunder, they need to evolve into that. And yeah, I actually agree with you. I think it's important for teams not only to lose, but also to have runs against them. I think the worst thing you could ever have for a team is unanimous success for too long, because it creates a false expectation that you're always going to be good, you're always going to win, because eventually you do miss shots. There's a reason why in 82 games, no one's ever won 82. You have bad nights. You have nights that it doesn't click or the other team gets hot. And in a playoff series where you don't have 82 games to muck around and find out, you've got 7, if that, it is important. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for the game 2 sets. It's kind of crazy that we already have games again tomorrow. I just feel like they don't give them. I don't feel like they space them out very well. I don't know about you,
you get 1 day
but
rest, right?
yeah, but I just obviously there's a scheduling reason for this, but this is probably the last point I'll make. I really feel like you need to give, especially in the first round, maybe just have 2 games a day. Like really give people their time to shine, because you have these really important, impactful games, but you're rushing through 4 of them in a day. You think about the Thursday TNT specials during the regular season, and you get 1 or 2 games, like it's a double header and that's it. I'm just surprised that in the first round we have these jam-packed schedules.
I think I'm not
And
sure.
yeah, all right, some of the matchups aren't great,
It's
but
a funny point you're raising there. I think often when you talk about how you could logistically changed the schedule, and you've talked about traveling schedules and stuff like that as well throughout the season. And I often then come in like I'm a league executive here, and I'm going to say something like 365 days actually isn't enough time to play all these games they're trying to play, plus playoffs, plus draft, plus preseason, plus they get a break, plus everything else that you're trying to do over a course of a year, and the simple fact that this is business and you got to make some money, right? So I think, yeah, you're right. Giving more space between games from a player's perspective, would not hurt. From an organization perspective, would not hurt. But then now you got your finals going into July potentially, and then that's actually when it's draft and free season, free agency time, right? So then now you're starting your season later again. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. I think from a scheduling and calendar perspective. Um, which are, I guess maybe I got a last point here to have a chat to you about, man. We're talking about what doesn't work. Yeah, you can't fit 360, all these games that you're trying to get in for the NBA, and everything else, every other NBA event into 365 days. So, can you get yourself an Olympic gold medal by picking yourself 12 of your best players? Yes, this is apparently dream team, light, correct? Yeah, like they've picked really established players that are going to represent US now in Paris this season. And can they? Is this a good move? You talked about role players before, all right? You talked, and I guess that was from a fantasy perspective, okay? But I guess right now it feels like Team USA with what they've picked, and yes, it can change, is an extremely fragile roster. I don't know. I'm not really sold on it. I'm not really liking it. Let's start with, oh my God, you've picked Devin Booker. Then you picked Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah. Then you picked Kawhi. Now you picked Joel Embiid. Mm. Like, hold on. Now that's 4 spots already, right? Now, I don't know, man. I don't know. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Do you think their dream team, 2024, smash every team and gold medal guaranteed? Because I think it's like, a couple of shaky knees and a rolled ankle away, and hold on, Neil, this is an upset, and maybe we're looking for a bronze.
I think the Olympics for a couple of years now has not been a guaranteed gold medal. All right. And I think America's struggling to figure that out. I think America thinks that they need to put together really, really big names, and that's going to get their way that you want. Joel Embiid if healthy, Kawhi Leonard if healthy. That's a fantastic addition to the team. That makes total sense. But you're not looking at the logistics of what you've got. LeBron James is also 40 years old, almost by that point. I don't know why he's there, and he could be a role player, but can he mentally be a role player? I'm not too sure. It'll be interesting. I think you look at some of the players that pop off in international play. I think Evan Fournier is looking at them being like, I got Wemby behind me. I'm going to have a great game. I'd be really curious. I'd be really curious if there'll be some changes to the roster, maybe after injury thing, because players like Bam are a good choice as well. There was someone else on the roster. I actually need to pull it up. But they do need more role players. You look at some players that, like, I don't know what Steph Curry is doing on that team. Is Steph Curry there as like a heater to get you out of trouble? But players like Drew Holiday, Bam,
I'm going to make
even
a suggestion.
AD.
I think one of the biggest omissions from this team is Draymond.
He's again. I'd also argue that he's too old too. I don't know why we're banking on all these 35-year-olds. Like, let's pretend, okay, they get the gold this time. Well, those guys won't be suiting up in 4 years' time, probably. Or if they are, like, what impact are they going to have?
Actually,
you need to.
You make a good point there. Why are they all 35-year-olds or 30-year-olds that Team USA are relying upon? Because the top 5 players in the league right now that are under 25 years old or 25 and under are all international players. That's the reality, I think, of how the NBA now has become a global game, which is great, don't get me wrong. But right now, besides who? Ja Morant? Who else? Who else is top talent that has not made this team that say under 28?
Well, I know it's too early for him, but is Chet Holmgren not a flyer here? Because of his blocking prowess. And you look at the FIBA rules as well with the ability to get a little bit closer to the ring on those touches. I don't understand how someone his size, but his ability to stretch the floor isn't at least valuable, right? When you're looking at because I guess the thing is, you look at this, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, to me, all play a very, very similar role. They're going to have the ball in their hand and they're going to shoot and they're going to try to score. Then you could add Steph Curry to that list. LeBron James and Tyrese Halliburton are going to play a very similar role as well. And then Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis, those are your two bigs, really? The two guys who can't string together consecutive seasons and are both potentially going to play a little bit of the playoffs. I don't know if they'll go beyond the first round. It's interesting. To me, that's interesting. But admittedly, this is also the team that's facing to qualify, I believe. Like, they're the ones that are going through the pool phase.
No. They're already qualified. This is the team that they're taking.
Well, that's a bad team. I think...
I'm not loving it. They're great names. You're trying to sell shoes and posters and stuff like that, and you're trying to get players that everyone sort of knows who they are from a marketing and merchandise perspective. Sure, absolutely. But I feel like this team, could face adversity internally, physically, injury-wise, and then on the floor, they're going to face a lot of potential, challenges against some of these top-tier, probably European teams that are out there. And look, I think it's going to be a real run for the money. And look, I don't know, they're definitely one of the still top 5 teams that can win it all. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, but I think there's a lot of other teams there that probably going, hey, if a couple of these guys, roll an ankle or feel sore in the knee when they wake up, that tilts the whole thing against Team USA.
But it's not even the injury stuff. It's the fact that they're single game eliminations, really. Even the pool stage, right? Where they really need to win 4 out of 5 of their games to make it to the next round. If 2 teams get hot against you, you're in trouble, right? In the pool stage. And then if you get to the final games, you need to win every single one. Like, you really do need to go 7 or 8-0/1. Like, that's the record that you need to win a gold medal. And you look at teams like Lithuania, who are very big historically, Spain, who's very well put together, a lot of continuity, even Slovenia now because of Luka's presence and how important that they are. Australia always seems to be pretty hard-nosed. It's hard to imagine that they're going to sweep this. You're not always playing Japan or the Republic of some African country that somehow qualified at the last minute. Like, you can't. And then France, ignoring France, because I don't know how they score anything in the paint with Rudy Gobert and Wembanyama on the French team. I actually don't know how that's going to work. And I think on the other end of the court, how do you stop those 2 players when your 2 defensive bigs are Joel Embiid, who's more offensively minded and aging horribly and injured, and AD, who's a defensive, fort, really, but also can't stay healthy. I think ultimately, before we conclude the podcast, I think Team USA has a really simple solution sitting there, and I'm surprised that they haven't taken it. It's been an ongoing thing for Team USA, and I think it's Trae Young. I think if they took Trae Young, I think they'd have a much better time. I think they could solve a lot of issues if they just get Trae Young on the team, get rid of some of those bums, and get Trae Young in there.
I think we should get you a different jersey, man.
Trae Young jersey, man.
Maybe you need an East jersey and a West jersey, so you can cover.
Oh, you have an East team. You're right.
Yeah,
I can support an East team. That's not a bad idea. I think everyone should have that.
All right, we got.